Rome, timeless, alive in every stone. Rome, its grandeur, its beauty never ceased to amaze. Every stone, every column, every whisper of wind through the ruins tells something that feels immortal. An empire full of mysteries, battles, and stories that still fascinate us. Among them, the gladiators shine. Figures carved into myth, into the stone of eternity. Spartacus, Crixus, Maximus. Names whispered across centuries, engraved in the heart of history. Men who fought between sand and blood, where every breath was a battle, where every heartbeat echoed the roar of survival. They fought not just for freedom, not just for honor. Men cheered by crazed crowds, their victories celebrated with shouts that shook the very stones. And even today, their stories live on. Etched in the dust, sung in the silence, forever honored, forever remembered. But there's a corner of the Colosseum that remains in the shadows. A whispered story, rarely told. A forgotten part, deliberately hidden. Maybe because it was too fascinating, too powerful, too feminine. No one ever speaks of them, of those who walked the same sand, who shed the same blood, who made the same choice, and then were erased. Women Rome chose to hide. The arena and the women. Yes, women entered the arena too, and it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice carved into their courage and into their hearts, not into the stones of Rome. Under the rising sun, in the heart of the Colosseum, they appeared. The dust swirled around their feet. The silence weighed heavy, broken only by their steps. They crossed the sands with steady hearts, unshaken, unafraid, claiming their place where only the strongest dared to stand. But you won't find their names in school books. You won't see their statues in museums. Their victories were buried in the dust, their courage erased from the marble of history. Rome, after using them, erased them. They were called Gladiatrix, real women, warrior women, flesh and blood, courage, fire, and passion. Their will forged in the dust of the arena, their spirit unbroken by chains or fear. Because an armed woman was not just a spectacle, she was a question no empire wanted to answer. She was a challenge. She was a threat to the world built by men. When a woman grabs the gladius, grabbed a sword, and that choice defied the empire. She stepped onto the same ground as men, under the same sun, in the same blood-stained sand, and fought in front of everyone, and that was considered a scandal. Something society couldn't accept. a threat, an exception that shook the rule. A woman who fought proved something Rome couldn't tolerate, that they too had fire inside, that they too could resist, kill, survive. And even if the empire tried to silence that fire, the idea was already alive, and Rome would never be the same again. And when women stop being afraid, empires start to tremble. The invisible ones. Hidden among the ruins of Halicarnassus, a fragment of stone whispers a forgotten story. Archaeologists uncovered a marble relief dating back to the 2nd century AD. It shows 2 female gladiators locked in combat, their names carved clearly into the stone: Amazon and Achillea. Little else is known about them. No histories recorded their lives, no scrolls preserved their stories. But this fragment, broken, silent, and forgotten for centuries, tells us enough. Enough to know they existed. Enough to know they fought. They were Amazon and Achillea, 2 women, 2 warriors, perhaps mothers, perhaps daughters, but above all, gladiators. And even the empire could not erase their names from history. A dangerous show. Step after step, breath after breath, heartbeat after heartbeat, the day of the games began. And inside the Colosseum, their fate and their lives would be decided. They fought one against the other. Against deformed men, against furious beasts, tigers, lions, never knowing what would emerge from the gates of the arena. Never knowing if they would breathe again. The sun scorched the sand. Sweat slid across their dust-covered skin. Heartbeats pounded louder than the roars of the crowd. Every step was a risk. Every breath, a battle. And above them, thousands of bloodthirsty eyes stared. Judged, waited for the first fall, the first massacre, and they rejoiced in the death of another human being. It wasn't glory, it was survival. It was existing for one more minute. It was standing exposed, naked before the empire, as fate was decided by iron and by pain. When silence became law. In 200 AD, the empire chose silence. Septimius Severus delivered a sentence as sharp as a blade. No woman would ever fight in the gladiatorial games again. Rome could no longer pretend. It had underestimated what an armed woman could represent. Not just strength, but influence. Not just a spectacle, but a symbol. And a symbol born of a woman was too dangerous. So Rome chose to forget. Simply, they erased them from the arenas, from the records, from the statues, from the stories. But time does not bow to empires, and the sand does not bury everything. Gladiatrix, non obscura. They were gladiators, yes, but not as they've been told. Not statues carved in stone, not names etched into marble columns. They were living flesh beneath the sun, dust-covered eyes and dreams already broken. They were warriors, and they carried rage in their wombs the way one carries a child, silently, with pride, with pain. They were women, not saints, not heroines. They were alive, and that alone was enough to be feared. They were fire that no arena could extinguish, rage that no decree could tame, resistance that not even time could erase. And today, they ask for nothing. No laurel crowns, no altars, no medals, only this: not to be buried beneath silence. Because every name that was erased is not just a lost letter, it is a voice, a cry, a heartbeat still pulsing through the cracks of history. Those who walk barefoot among the ruins, those who place their hands on the broken walls of time, know that something still trembles within. It is the wind that moves through the bones of the forgotten. And it does not sweep away the dust, it lifts it, it makes it dance in the light, it gives it voice. And so yes, today we don't write an ending. Today we press our ear to history. And finally, we listen. But maybe, when we truly think about it, this was never just a story about gladiatrices. It was a way to remember what it means to be a woman in a world that too often chooses not to see. And so today, we remember that too. Women. Magnificent women. Stronger, always, than the world has ever dared to see.